This is the Grundig ST 70-720/8 text. It's a 66cm CRT television from 1997, obviously made by good old Grundig. A curved tube. I have the actual catalogue from that year. This is one that I collected back in the day. It's the 1997 catalogue. This television is actually the bottom of the range for that particular year, according to this catalogue, and we'll have a look at the catalogue more closely soon. On the front, we have the controls of volume down and up, channel up and down, infrared receiver. I don't think there's any push lid there, but there's a power switch and very deeply recessed composite video, headphone jack and stereo left and right. Going around the sleek black shelled Grundig, we go to the label. Grundig ST70 again, the model number, made in Germany, and the chassis, as you can see there, is the CUC 6330. That is the chassis for this particular television. As far as the connectors are concerned, we have the all-important SCART, only one SCART, that'll be our RGB in there, the RF and the power socket. Good old Grundig with the removable lead. Quite handy in this day and age of televisions having their leads chopped off, trash pick televisions. Doesn't matter so much if the cord's cut in these things because the plug can just be pulled out straight away and replaced with a new lead. So quite the bonus that Grundig did that. Unforeseen but bountiful for us. Here's the shell, quite dusty inside as this television was, like it'd been in a hay barn or something. Maybe not that bad. I've given it a basic clean. I've wiped down the tube, so it's looking quite good. The chassis still got a thin layer of dust on top. The compressor won't get rid of that. You have to resort to different means to give it a real thorough clean, but that's improved it a lot from what it was. Phillips tube A66EAK071X01, proper, made in Germany, Phillips tube. A lot of CRT plants in Europe back in the day. Bonded yoke. There's our chassis. Our speakers are down below the tube. You can see that left side one. There'll be another one over on the right in there. Not too much else to report. Got some stickers, some identification, model number, Grundig flyback. Speaking of flyback, the focus and voltage adjustment for the flyback is actually on the neck board. This little unit that the wires travel to the flyback, but the control for it is on the neck board, which is a bit different. Anode cap made in Korea, a little unusual. The proper matching remote, according to the brochure, is the Telepilot, or TP 712. On the left I've got the 715, and on the right I've got the 720 Telepilot remotes, genuine original Grundig remotes, and they both work. Even this modern thing here, much more modern Grundig remote, still a CRT based Grundig remote, works as well. But I don't have the legit one, but I think I can make do with what I've got. I must say the television has thrown me a lot more curveballs than I expected, so much so that I've had to get out quite a number of consoles to actually test the television to ascertain what it's capable, or more so what it's not capable of. So I've got PAL NES and PAL SNES, NTSC Sega Saturn and NTSC Super Famicom, then a PAL Xbox 360, which I'm on right now, just to establish a baseline of what the TV is capable of. The Xbox has actually just gone into standby, just turned off. I think it's probably a good time to go to the brochure, the 1997 brochure, and have a look at the feature set of this television, just to start to establish what it can and can't do. Here's the catalogue again, the 1997 Grundig. It's a proper Australian one. You've got your glossary of terms and features and things, but what we're looking at today is that one, that ST70-720. It's on top end. As I said, it is the most basic in the range, and that means this year there's no 59, 51s, 34 centimetre TVs. This 66 is the bottom of the range, which is odd because Grundig's had smaller TVs here in Australia before and after. The next one up, which is the same size But you can already, if you're looking at, look, actually I'll go to the back sheet. I'll just go to the back sheet in a moment and get to the specs proper. But you can see other televisions, 100 Hertz stuff, big reference model there, VCRs. Don't really care for the VCRs in this video. VCR specs are on the bottom. There's Southern Cross Electronics, the official distributor of Grundig in Australia. We go to the specs at the top here. Go to the specs. You've got the various different models of television. The one we're looking at is the first one. And there's the feature set. And basically it's a yes, no, or X amount of whatever that feature is. You know, various tubes. 100, 120 Hertz. No, that doesn't apply to this bottom of the range stuff. And various other things. Comb filter, no. Space velocity modulation, no. Probably not bad things that it doesn't have some of that stuff, some of it. But this is an interesting one, 16:9 switching. No. Keep that in mind, okay? Every other model in this year is a yes on the 16:9 switching, except this one I've got now. You don't care about picture-in-picture. Now, colour systems. Colour systems. There's PAL, CCAM, NTSC 4.43 and 3.58. We have both the PAL and the CCAM. Yes, yes, but no NTSC 4.43 or the other. The other televisions, pretty much yes, across the board. Across the board, but this, no NTSC playback. There's our remote type, TP12. You saw the TP or TP712, the TP720 that's what I showed before. As far as speakers are concerned, this model has 2 by 8 watts / 4 watts. All the others have beefed up sound systems compared to what I've got here today. S-video input, no. No, not many dedicated S-video inputs. Euro AV socket 1, 2, 1 suitable for SVHS-C. There's no S-video capability according to this for the TV. VGA PC input. I like how there's none this year that actually have that. I don't know why they've even got it mentioned here. And weight's 33.5 kilos. It's pretty light. The main things that I want to summarise with though is, and what I want to concentrate on is the 16:9 switching is no, and the NTSC playback is no as well. I think we'll focus on those two things as we continue this video. Well, we start off with the basics, the NES in PAL, or a PAL NES in composite video connected into the front of the TV, light gun test. Don't really need to do this test because of course it's going to work anyway. There you go, it does work. The TV does have on-screen display, albeit it's very, very simple. You know, brightness, see the color or contrast. I'll turn it right down. So that's color. What I'm saying is it doesn't actually have really a navigationable, if such a word exists. You can't really navigate a menu, just simply, well, that's about as close as it gets. You can go up and down, adjust sound, but there's not really much else going on. It's pretty basic. NES looks good, looks proper, looks normal. First time in a while I've seen this displayed just normal, how you'd expect it to be. Bit of discoloration over here, but we'll see what that looks like. And it almost looks degoused over there. I seem to only notice it on the NES, but we'll see if we can pick up on that on other things. Another thing I want to point out too is that you saw the SCART on the back and the composite input on the front. Well, they're both shared. So right now I've got the Xbox 360 plugged into the back of the TV, but it's not turned on. But if I do turn it on, I've just powered up the console. There's the 360 trying to get through. It's in SCART RGB and you've got the NES at the same time. So it's a shared input. It's not a deal breaker, but you've only really got one true input on the TV. So I turn the NES off, the Xbox display is fine. The Saturn was the first console I tried on the television. So right now I've got an NTSC Saturn hooked up via SCART RGB. It is in RGB because it has the clarity of RGB. However, there is a wobble in the picture. You might be able to see that on camera. I thought, well, the TV is probably faulty. It's electronically faulty because it's got the wobble, not totally unusual. Also, it's in widescreen mode because the picture's compressed vertically. It's letterboxed. That is not uncommon for SCART televisions to do that at all. However, I was trying to switch into 4:3, and if you remember on the Grundig brochure, this does not have 16:9 switching, even though we are in 16:9 theoretically. However, upon more console testing, I learnt of more things to come that would indicate that it's the TV. TV is really seemingly not compatible with NTSC, with 60 Hz signals at all. Not properly anyway. So there's no way to stretch the screen out via the remote that I can find right now. We've got a wobble in the picture. That led me to the next console. Now I have the Super Famicom plugged into the TV via composite. Let me repeat, that is in composite, not SCART anymore. This means there's none of the SCART switching, voltage switching on pin 8 or pin 16 to give widescreen. It's composite video, should be full screen or thereabouts right now. Also, the picture still has the wobble in it, even here on composite video. So there's some serious issues going on. Quite likely some really NTSC incompatibility with the wobble and the compressed vertical picture. I'll go now onto the PAL SNES for a bit more experimentation. This time Super Nintendo PAL SCART RGB, Bubsy the Bobcat. If you don't know any better, a lot of the Super Nintendo games had fairly big borders on the top and the bottom, so that's not any compression fault of the television. That's how it is meant to look. We have no problems displaying PAL 50 Hz here, RGB. So everything PAL I've tried works fine. I've got a mod inside the Super Nintendo, 50 and 60 Hz switch. So I'll flick it to 60. What would normally happen is the picture would be stretched out to fill the screen more so. Yet when we flick the switch, we actually get a little bit more compressed. So in 60 Hz we get that vertical compression like we have had on the Saturn and the Super Famicom. So again, it doesn't seem to like 60 Hz. We don't have the wobble this time, however, but we do have the compression, oddly enough. Onto the 360. A very good console for testing this television right now because it outputs SCART RGB. You can see on screen it even recognizes that it's in SCART. PAL 50, not widescreen. You can change it and it will alter things a little bit. So I've got a very suitable signal for the television. I can go to PAL 60, which theoretically shouldn't work too well given what we've seen already. And you can see that PAL 60 is compressed. It should be simply full screen. We'll go back to PAL 50. You may be asking, well, why is PAL 50 full screen anyway? Well, by the time the console generations got to this point, the 360, things were optimized for PAL a lot better than, say, back in the Super Nintendo days. I should make mention too, I don't really see the discoloration here that the NES did have in composite, weirdly, oddly enough. That's another anomaly I can't explain. I'm going to finish off this video now about the Grundig, playing Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, still on the Xbox 360 in RGB, and it looks quite nice. Lovely looking picture. However, it's handicapped. The television's handicapped by its PAL only friendliness and not its NTSC ability. So for example, back in the day, if you had have imported a Nintendo 64 from Japan on launch or thereabouts, your best signal natively would have been S-Video. You wouldn't be able to plug it into the television. You'd go composite, it would be black and white. The image would be compressed on this television. So very unsuitable for anything NTSC. Even in RGB, we've seen issues with 60 Hz. So as it is, it's restricted. Really a PAL, truly a PAL television, this Grundig in particular. My recommendation would be to go for the next model up, the ST70-800. multiple inputs, NTSC playback, 16:9 switching. It seems to address all the shortfalls of what we're looking at today. This particular television here today retailed for about $1,600 back in the day. You could get better offerings from Lerva with that added compatibility. So I don't think this Grundig was a good investment back then and not ideal today unless you're really restricting it to PAL content like this in front of us now with Street Fighter, because it looks quite good. Yeah, I've got no complaints at all. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. Probably avoid this Grundig, but don't ignore Grundig. It is a good brand.